Taş devri niçin sona erdi? Taşlar bittiği için değil, bakış açısı değiştiği için sona erdi. Yani sonraki gelen her çağ bir öncekinden farklı olarak bakış açısına sahip olan insanlar tarafından yaratılır. Şu an dünyamız yeni bir çağa giriyor. Bu yeni çağ bizlerden ve çocuklarımızdan bambaşka beceriler bekliyor. Yapılan araştırmalar gösteriyor. 20. yüzyıl bizden ne istiyor? Çocuklarımızdan ne istiyor? Yaratıcılık istiyor, inovasyon, kritik düşünme yani eleştirel düşünme, sorun çözme, iletişim ve işbirliği istiyor. Aynı zamanda ne istiyor? Analitik zeka, kavramsal zeka, duygusal zeka istiyor. Şimdi ben bakıyorum geleceği yaşayacak çocuklardan istedikleri bu becerileri okul ortamında biz çocuklara vermiyoruz. Ne kadar büyük kötülük yapıyoruz.
Wow. After such a great introduction, I can't wait to hear the speaker myself. First of all, I have a confession to make. Sometimes these honors and accolades can backfire. Recently, New York Magazine voted me as one of the 100 smartest people in New York. And I thought, wow, what a great honor. However, in all fairness, I have to admit that Madonna also made that same list. And next year, Lady Gaga is going to push me off the list entirely. Now today, I'm going to talk about the future, your future. It's very dangerous to make predictions. Let me quote from that great philosopher of American baseball, Yogi Berra. Yogi Berra once said, quote, "Prediction is awfully hard to do, especially if it's about the future." Well, that's what I'm going to talk about today. Now, why ask a physicist to talk about the future? Well, we invented the transistor. We invented the laser. We assembled the internet. We wrote the World Wide Web. And don't forget, we invented television. We invented radio. We invented radar, microwaves. In the hospital, we invented the X-ray machine. We invented the MRI scan, the PET scan. In the biology laboratory, we invented the electron microscope. We sequenced the DNA molecule. And don't forget, we created the space program. And we created the GPS satellite. And we physicists love to make predictions. When we helped to assemble the internet, one physicist predicted that the internet would become a forum of high culture, high art, and high society. Well, today we know that 5% of the internet is pornography. But that's because teenage boys log on to the internet. Just wait until the grandmas and grandpas are on the internet. Then 50% of the internet will be pornography. And before I begin, let me give you a cautionary story. Over 200 years ago, we had the Great French Revolution. And one day there were three gentlemen about to have their heads cut off at the guillotine. There was a priest, a lawyer, and a theoretical physicist, just like me, about to lose our head to the guillotine. Well, they put the priest's head on the chopping block, and they asked him, "Do you have any last words?" And he said, "Yes." He said, "Yes." He said, God from above shall set me free." Well, we'll see about that. All eyes were on the blade. They raised the blade. The blade came down, swoosh, and stopped right before it hit the neck of the priest. The crowd gasped. They'd never seen this before. And the crowd said, "Let the priest go. Today, God has spoken. And now let's see about the lawyer." Well, they put the lawyer's head on the chopping block. And they asked him, "Do you have any last words?" And he said, "Yes, yes, maybe the spirit of justice. Justice shall set me free." Well, all eyes were on the blade. They raised the blade. The blade came down, swish, and stopped right before it hit the neck of the lawyer. This time, there was dancing in the streets of Paris. People were saying, "God has spoken, justice has spoken." And now, let's see about the physicist. Well, they put the physicist's head on the chopping block, and they asked him, "Do you have any last words?" And he said, Yeah, I got some last words. And he said, I don't know too much about God, and I know even less about the law, but I do know one thing. If you look up, you'll see that the rope is stuck on the pulley. And then he said, if you remove the rope, the blade should come down real good. Big mistake. Big mistake. Well, the rope came down, the blade came down, and the poor physicist's head came down. And it just goes to show you, sometimes we physicists have to know when to keep our mouths shut. Nonetheless, today I'm going to open the mouths of 300 of the world's top scientists that I've had the privilege of interviewing for BBC television, the Discovery Channel, the Science Channel. My book, Physics of the Future, was an international bestseller talking about the next 20, 50, 100 years into the future. My previous book, Physics of the Impossible, goes 500 years into the future. That's how far we physicists can see the future, because what do physicists invent? We invent the future. We invented the 20th century, and we are now inventing the 21st century. In this book, I talk about starships, telekinesis, teleportation. I even talk about time travel. And in this book, I answer the question, what happens if you go into a time machine and you meet your teenage mother before you were born, and she falls in love with you? Well, if your teenage mother falls in love with you before you were born, you're in big trouble. But my latest book is about the greatest mystery in the universe, the human mind. The most complex object in the known universe is the human brain. But using physics, we can now, in the laboratory, demonstrate telepathy, mind reading, telekinesis, moving objects with the mind, recording memories, photographing dreams. We can now photograph a dream. In the future, when you wake up, you'll push a button and see the video of the dream that you had the previous night. But you may say to yourself, "Ha! You guys cannot predict the future. You guys cannot predict the past. Nobody predicted the crash of 2008. Well, that's not quite true. Let's talk about the crash of 2008. First of all, where does wealth come from anyway? Where does wealth come from? Ultimately, wealth comes from science and technology. But science comes in waves, which create waves of wealth. But wealth is restless. It has to go someplace. And where does it go? Often to create a bubble. And when the bubble pops, you get a depression. So let's talk about the waves of innovation. Around 1800, we physicists unlocked the secrets of thermodynamics. We could take a lump of coal and calculate how much energy you can extract from a lump of coal. That initiated the Industrial Revolution. All of a sudden, we had steam power, locomotives, factories, creating wealth on a scale never seen before by an agrarian society. But wealth has to go someplace. Where did the wealth go? Into the London Stock Exchange, creating a bubble, a huge bubble, but it was unsustainable. The bubble popped in 1850, and it created the first crisis of capitalism, a crisis so great that it created a philosophy called Marxism. But we physicists are also restless. We initiated the second wave of wealth and innovation. We physicists unlocked the secret of electricity, magnetism, and the internal combustion engine. And that gave birth to an even bigger bubble, a bubble in the American Stock Exchange, in utility stock and automobile stock. The bubble was huge, but it could not be sustained. And the bubble popped in 1929, 80 years later. Well, 80 more years later, we physicists created the third wave of innovation. 80 years later, we initiated the revolution of high technology. Lasers, computers, internet, iPods, tablets, GPS, all of it coming from physics. This created an even bigger bubble, a bubble the likes of which had never been seen before. And it was unsustainable. It popped in 2008. So here's the question for today. Here's the question for today. If the first wave was steam power, the second wave was electricity, the third wave was computers, then what is the fourth wave? What is the fourth wave? The fourth wave, we think, is going to be molecular science, biotech, nanotech, artificial intelligence, all held together by computers and mobile technology. So let's talk about the fourth wave. First of all, this is Moore's Law. It is perhaps one of the most important laws in all of modern history. The wealth of nations depends on this simple curve. This curve says that computer power doubles every 18 months. Now think about that. Today, if you get a birthday card in the mail, there's a chip in it. You open it up, and it sings, "Happy birthday to you." That chip has more computer power than all the Allied forces of 1945. Stalin, Hitler, Churchill, Roosevelt, they would have killed to get that chip. And what do you do with that chip? You throw it away in the garbage. And look at 1969. In 1969, we put 2 men on the moon. But if you look at this chart very carefully, you begin to realize that the computer power of the space program was based on 64K processors, dinosaurs. You realize that your cell phone has more computer power than all of the space program of 1969. You're not going to put me in one of those rockets. You're not going to shoot me into outer space backed up by one cell phone. It's criminal. It's criminal what we were doing in 1969, shooting humans to the moon backed up by one cell phone. And now look at 2020. When you look at 2020, you now see the future. In the next 10 years or so, computer chips will cost 1 penny. This means that computers will be everywhere and nowhere. Like electricity. Where is electricity today? Electricity is under the floor, in the ceiling, in the walls. Electricity is invisible. Electricity is everywhere and nowhere. And the word electricity has disappeared from the English language. No one says the word electricity anymore. The same thing with computers. When chips cost a penny, computer power will be everywhere and nowhere. And the word computer will disappear from the English language. And the internet will also be everywhere and nowhere. Complements of mobile technology. Now you say to yourself, are computers different? Are computers different from all other technologies? No. Take a look at paper. Paper. 4,000 years ago, the Chinese, the Egyptians invented papyrus. And we had 100 scribes guarding one papyrus scroll, 100 to 1. And that created ancient civilization. That's called stage 1. Stage 2, 1450. Gutenberg invented the movable type. One human, one book. The personal book in 1450. And then around 1930, we created the personal library. One human, one library. Well, today we're in stage 4. Paper is everywhere and nowhere. It's a fashion statement. We don't even think about paper anymore. Running water also obeyed the very same stages. Computers are no different, except it's much faster. In the 50s, we had the mainframe computer. 100 scientists guarding one mainframe computer. Stage 2, we had the personal computer. One human, one computer. Today, we're in stage 3. One human and the millions of computers on the internet. Eventually, we will hit stage 4. And in stage 4, the computer disappears everywhere and nowhere, including your glasses. These glasses are more powerful than Google glasses. These glasses, when they see you, they recognize faces. So in the future, when you see somebody, you will see a biography next to their image. And if they speak to you in Chinese, no problem. These will translate Chinese into English, Turkish, or whatever. Very useful. How many times have you been in a conference like this, and you bump into somebody, and you say, I know this person. I know this person. Jim, John, Jake, who is this person? In the future, your glasses will say, it's Jim, stupid. You see him every year at the Turkcell conference. And let's say tonight, you're at a cocktail party, and there's some very important people at that cocktail party, but you don't know who they are. In the future, you will know exactly who to suck up to at any cocktail party. But maybe you don't want to look like a refugee from a Hollywood science fiction movie. Children love this idea of computers being everywhere and nowhere. Children are the driving force behind this technology. Remember when they talked about the digital divide? Remember that? About 10 years ago, everyone was saying, oh, the digital divide. We're going to have the digital rich and the digital poor. Wrong. Who's pushing this revolution today? Poor children. If you're a child and you're not on the internet, you don't exist. Many ways to do it. You can shoot the image right to the retina of your eye, or you can use the lens as a screen, or you can have an eyepiece. 3 ways to have information everywhere and nowhere. And eventually, fashion models will wear this technology. Eventually, this will be your personal office, your home entertainment center. This will be how you will work. But there's a problem here. Let's say you don't wear glasses. Let's say you don't like glasses. Then what are you going to do? Then in the future, you will blink and you will go online. And who were the first people to buy internet contact lenses? College students taking final examinations. They will blink and see all the answers to my exams right there in their contact lens. Who are the second people to buy internet contact lenses? Politicians, actors, actresses, so they don't have to have teleprompters giving them their speech when they're on television. Who else will buy these internet contact lenses? Tourists. Because if you're walking through the streets of Rome, there's no more Roman Empire anymore. In the future, as you walk through the Forum, you'll see the Roman Empire resurrected from the ruins in your contact lens. And if you're in the bazaar and you want to buy something, you will know exactly what people are saying because your contact lens will translate into whatever language you want. NASA, the space industry, wants astronauts with these things so they can see blueprints while they're making repairs in outer space. The Air Force wants this because if you're in an airplane, in a jet, and the enemy goes underneath your jet, you're dead meat. In the future, the Air Force wants to put a TV camera underneath the airplane to shoot the image into your contact lens. So when you look down, you will see through your feet. This is X-ray vision, just like Superman. You'll be able to see right through walls because there's a camera on the other side of the wall shooting the image into your contact lens. So construction workers will see blueprints. Astronauts will see instructions. Tourists will see a description of everything. This is called augmented reality. Now, virtual reality is for children. That's when you put on glasses and see a cartoon. That's called virtual reality. This is different. This is called augmented reality. When you see information, biographies, movies, whatever, simply by blinking. Now, you've seen this before. There's a Hollywood movie which first introduced augmented reality. What was that Hollywood movie? Well, here is the former governor of California in a very bad mood. This is Arnold Schwarzenegger in the movie Terminator. And when the Terminator robot sees you, he sees a biography right next to your image. And the military has a working version of this. You may say to yourself, isn't this science fiction? It can't possibly be true. Information everywhere and nowhere. No, it already exists. The military has a device called Land Warrior. It's this big. You put it on your helmet. You flick it over your eye, and bingo, you see the internet of the battlefield. Enemy forces, friendly forces, artillery, fire. This already exists. So who will want this technology? Everybody. Husband and wives will hook their contact lenses together. So husbands can see what the wife is seeing, and the wife can see what the husband is seeing. Because we all know that husbands always buy the wrong things. They always do shopping, and they always buy the wrong apple, the wrong pear, the wrong celery. This way, the wife can tell exactly what the husband is seeing. Now, this means that we're seeing the digitalization of life. Mobile technology everywhere and nowhere. This means that every aspect of life will be digitalized, including money. Money is now being digitalized. The future of money is your cell phone. You will point and click, and that's how you will buy things in the future. Point and click. Beyond that, you will simply blink, and you will buy things. This is how you will shop in the future. And what about your cell phone? Today, if your cell phone has a tiny, tiny keyboard, and you have fat fingers, sorry about that. With fat fingers, you cannot type on a cell phone. So, we scientists have invented e-paper, intelligent paper. You will scroll out from your cell phone as much intelligent paper as you want, a bigger keyboard as you want. In fact, we can make yards of this stuff, yards and yards of intelligent paper, because chips only cost a penny a piece. This is the future of wallpaper. Wallpaper in your house will be intelligent, because intelligence is almost for free. Today, if your wallpaper is old, discolored, stained, torn, what do? You suffer. That's what you do. In the future, you go to the wall and say, mirror, mirror on the wall, please change color. And let's say it's 4 o'clock in the morning and you feel a pain in your chest. Is it a heart attack? Or is it the pizza you had last night? You go to the wall and say, mirror, mirror on the wall, I want to talk to RoboDoc right now. Boom! RoboDoc appears in your wallpaper. Artificially intelligent, a doctor that accesses the entire internet, giving you almost free medical advice, anytime, anywhere. And let's say you're in a car accident. You're in a car accident, and you need a lawyer real fast. What do? Boom, robo-lawyer appears. Robo-lawyer accesses the entire legal literature, talks to you in plain language, and tells you exactly what the law says. These are called intelligent systems, pioneered by IBM. Intelligent systems take knowledge, specialized knowledge, and make it available almost to everybody. Health costs are rising very rapidly. People are getting older. People are getting sicker. And we need to reduce cost. And we'll do this with artificial intelligence, expert systems that give you almost all information almost for free. So what we're talking about is the digitalization of capitalism. One by one, industries are being digitalized. The first was music, and that had horrible consequences. We told the music industry, watch out. A song is less than a megabyte. The internet will just eat it up. The music industry said, ha, people will always buy music the old-fashioned way. Wrong. You know who controls the music industry today? Who controls the music industry today? It is Apple computers. Apple computers through iTunes. What's the lesson here? The lesson here is you can ignore everything I've been saying. You are free to ignore everything that I've been saying. You are also free to go bankrupt. What's happening now? Now is media being digitalized. Radio, television, newspapers, movies, libraries, books being digitalized all in your cell phone. For example, in America, we have the New York Times and the Boston Globe, two great newspapers. About 10 years ago, the New York Times paid $1 billion to buy the Boston Globe. Logical, two great newspapers. But a few months ago, the New York Times sold the Boston Globe. For how much? About 10% of the original cost. How much did the New York Times lose? $1 billion. The New York Times bet against technology. They bet against Moore's Law, and they lost. So you're free to do anything you want. to ignore the digitalization process, you will simply go bankrupt. What's next? What's next to be digitalized is transportation, medicine, education, retailing. They're next to be digitalized. So watch out. If your company, if your job is involved in these areas, watch out. So let's take them one at a time. First of all, this is the future of your living room. This is how you will relax at night. You'll be surrounded 360 degrees by intelligent walls, and you will access as much information as you want. This means that even presents and holidays will be digitalized. Chips are being put in toys now. Chips are being put in toys, making toys intelligent. And this is creating a problem for the English language. We have a contradiction in terms called smart Barbie dolls. That's a contradiction in terms. Another contradiction in terms is Microsoft Works. That is also a contradiction in terms. This is also the future of your love life. Let's say it's Friday night, you have no date, you're all alone. What do? Well, in America, we all know what you do on Friday night if you have no date. You get stone drunk. In the future, you go to the wall and say, mirror, mirror on the wall, who's available tonight? Boom. All the pictures of everyone who's available that night appear. You go on a nice dinner. That's not going to change. We'll still have to eat in the future. And at night, you say, mirror, mirror on the wall. We want to see an old-fashioned movie like Casablanca, except remove Humphrey Bogart's face and put my face instead. You will be the hero of every action movie of the future. Now, television has been stuck for 50 years. It's a flat screen. The holy grail of television is 3D without glasses. For 50 years, we wanted 3D television without those smelly, clunky, sweaty glasses. We finally did it. Watch for it in your living room in the next few years. 3D without glasses. The secret is the screen. The screen consists of thousands of vertical lines. Each vertical line is a prism, cuts the image in half. One half goes to the left eye, one half goes to the right eye, and bingo, 3D without glasses. So this is the digitalization of your living room. This is the digitalization of your office. This is how you will work in the future. Notice that there's no PC there. Why? In the future, there's only one place for the PC, and that is a museum. These are scrap computers. They only cost a penny. You scribble on them and then throw them away. And when you go from room to room, room to car, car to home, home to work, the scribbles follow you in the cloud. This is called the seamless transfer of information in the cloud. The cloud is everything. The computer is nothing. And this is your cubicle of the future. It'll be wraparound, flexible, 3D, gorgeous color. Your workplace of the future will be so beautiful, you will never get any work done in the future. This is how you will drive to work in the future. The car of the future drives itself. Watch for it in your garage before 2020. We expect that by 2020, many people will have driverless cars in their garage. The secret is the GPS system and radar in the fenders. Now, I drove this car. BBC television flew me down to North Carolina, and they put me in this car. So there I was driving this car. And then the cameraman said, "Let go of the steering wheel." And I said, "What? You crazy? You nuts? I'm not going to let go of the steering wheel." And the cameraman said, "Trust me. Let go of the steering wheel." So I closed my eyes, I let go of the steering wheel, and the car drove itself. Now let's do a science experiment. Today, after the lecture, when you get in your car, do this. This is how you will drive in the future. One of my colleagues is in Silicon Valley. That's how he drives to work every day. Every day he drives to work like this. It's legal in California to drive a driverless car. And remember that in America, 30,000 people die in car accidents every year. But computers don't fall asleep. Computers do not get distracted. The words traffic accident will also disappear from the English language. So we're talking about the seamless transfer of information. When you're driving your car, you see things, you will identify what they are, you will know who you're talking to, you'll see blueprints, maps, whatever you want when you are meeting people or doing things. If, for example, in America, we have something called Match.com, young boys and young girls are computer dating each other, okay? You can do that. However, people lie. People lie all the time. In the future, you'll know exactly who's lying to you. And how will you buy things in the future? This is called mass customization. Let's say you're looking for a wedding dress, a beautiful dress. You shop and you finally found it, the perfect wedding dress. Right color, right shape, right designer. Everything's perfect except wrong size. What happens today? No sale. In the future, the cloud has your three-dimensional measurements. The cloud knows exactly your specifications, punches out the perfect dress, and ships it to you the next day. This is called mass customization. Now, in America, it was Henry Ford, 100 years ago, Henry Ford who introduced mass production. And Henry Ford was famous for saying, quote, "The American people can have any color car they want as long as it's black." And 3D printing is getting more advanced every year. This is how you will print toys in holidays. Holiday toys will be printed by downloading the blueprint off email. This is so advanced now, we can even download heart tissue. Living tissue, living flesh can now be punched out using 3D printers. So what am I building up to? What does all this mean? What this means is we're headed for something I call perfect capitalism. What is capitalism? Capitalism is private ownership where prices are set by supply and demand. That's what capitalism is. But you see, supply and demand are imperfect. You don't know who's cheating you. You don't know who has the cheapest price. You don't know what the profit margin is. You don't know these things. You guess. In the future, when you go shopping, your contact lens will scan all the products and tell you who has the cheapest product, who has the best product, what the profit margin is, what do people say about this product, all of that, right, in your contact lens. So the advantage shifts to the consumer. The consumer knows everything about a product. But if you are the producer, if you're the manufacturer, what do? You use data mining, big data, analytics, targeted marketing, and branding. That's how you fight back against the consumer who knows everything about your product. So every revolution has winners and losers. Today, we no longer have blacksmiths. We no longer have wagon makers. But we don't cry. We don't cry that there are no more blacksmiths and no more wagon makers. So in the future, the winner is the consumer. Cheaper prices, better prices, more transparency. The winner is the consumer. And the big question is now, who is the loser? Every revolution has a loser. The loser in this revolution are the middlemen, the friction of capitalism. If you're a stockbroker, you know that you cannot sell stock anymore. It's amazing. Stockbrokers do not sell stock because you can buy stock on the internet almost for free. So why bother to go to a stockbroker? So what do stockbrokers sell? And this is one of the big lessons of today's talk. What do middlemen sell? Stockbrokers do not sell stock. So what do stockbrokers sell? They sell something that computers cannot provide. Experience, know-how, savvy, imagination, innovation, talent, leadership. In other words, intellectual capital. This is going to be the source of wealth in the future. Not so much commodity capital, but intellectual capital. Capital that robots cannot produce. Products of the human mind involving creativity, imagination, analysis. That's what middlemen will provide in the future, or they go bankrupt. Now let's talk about the big one. This is the big one. Medicine. In Europe, Japan, America, people are getting older and older and older, and they need medical care. Costs are rising through the roof. One thing we can use is technology. Let's look at diagnostics. A lot of excess paper is consumed using diagnostics. The question is, how small can you make a chip? We can make a chip so small, you can put it inside an aspirin pill, along with a TV camera and a magnet. You swallow it, the magnet guides its way through the stomach into your intestines. And we all know what middle-aged men fear the most. What do middle-aged men fear the most? The C word, colonoscopy. That's when they stick a tube up your rear. But this gives new meaning for the expression, Intel inside. Yes, in the future, Intel will always be inside. But even cancer is now, we think, will be conquered, at least partially, by nanotechnology. Medicine is going to be turned upside down by nanomedicine. We can make a molecule that seeks out individual cancer cells and kills them one by one. This is amazing. It's undergoing human trials now. This is not science fiction. Molecules that kill individual cancer cells one by one. This could be the future of cancer research. Targeted therapy, not chemotherapy. Chemotherapy is horrible. That's when your hair falls out, your skin has premature aging, you vomit all the time. That's chemotherapy. This is targeted therapy, complements of nanotechnology. But what about preventing cancer before it forms? Even before it forms. In the next slide, you will see a revolutionary instrument, something that is amazing. The word tumor could disappear from the language. In the future, we will no longer say computer. We will no longer say traffic accident, and we will no longer say tumor because of the next invention. Your toilet. Your toilet will have a chip in it, a DNA chip that analyzes proteins from cancer cells 10 years before a tumor forms. If you're a woman and you feel a lump in your breast, it's too late. It's really too late. It is impossible to save the breast. You're on the operating table almost immediately. No ifs, ands, or buts. You are on the operating table. In the future, the DNA chip will pick up genes, proteins, enzymes from cancer and tell you you have breast cancer. Do something. You have 10 years. This is going to change the way we view cancer. And what about MRI scans? Why are MRI scans so big? Because you have to have a uniform magnetic field. That's why. But we can use computers now to compensate for weak magnetic fields. On the right-hand side is the world's smallest MRI machine. It's this big. So the question is, how small can you make an MRI machine by the laws of physics? And the answer is this big. You are now looking at the future of medicine. You will have more computer power in your cell phone than a university hospital today. And what will we do with this technology? With the genome, we will sequence them and create a human body shop. This is an ear. It's made out of plastic. You take cells from your ear, put it in the plastic then allows it to grow. Plastic dissolves, leaving a perfect ear. We can grow ears from your own cells. Bone on the left, cartilage on the right, noses, ears. This is a bladder, an entire bladder grown from a young woman's own cells. And this is a windpipe grown from your own cells. And what's next? What is the next organ to be grown? The liver. So especially for you Westerners in Europe, if you're an alcoholic, cheer up, because we will cure cirrhosis of the liver, because we will grow a new liver. And the next organ to be grown, or the next organ to be analyzed, is the brain. The brain has blood flow that we physicists can now analyze. We can see thoughts ricocheting inside the brain. And we can now tell if old superstition is correct. There's lots of superstition about the brain. One superstition is that when a man sees a pretty girl, he starts to act stupid. It's true. You can show using brain scans that when a man sees a pretty girl, blood drains from his cortex, and he becomes mentally retarded as a consequence. Absolutely true. We measure that in the laboratory now. And you can now connect the brain to a machine. This man is paralyzed, but we connected his brain to a computer. He's totally paralyzed. He cannot even scratch his nose. He can now surf the web, read email, write email, operate his wheelchair, operate household appliances. Even my colleague Stephen Hawking is now being hooked up to a computer mentally. So you can now control mechanical arms, mechanical legs. If you saw the international football games this summer, the man who started the football game in Brazil was totally paralyzed. But at Duke University, they connected his brain to mechanical arms and legs, and he kicked the football. So we're talking about the fact that we're now going to be able to computerize the human body, the digitalization of the human body. So to summarize, the message for today is that under perfect capitalism, we are going from commodity capitalism to intellectual capitalism, where experience, innovation, imagination, know-how, savvy, leadership, creativity will be the currency of the future. So what's the message? You are the winners. You are the winners, because in this room, We have people who represent the cream of intellectual capital. The innovators, the inventors, the entrepreneurs, the dreamers. You are the future. And when I was a child, I had a role model. My role model was Albert Einstein. And let me close by giving you my favorite Einstein story. When Einstein was an old man, he was tired of giving the same talk over and over again. So one day, his chauffeur came up to him, and the chauffeur said, "Professor, I'm really a part-time actor. I've heard your speech so many times, I've memorized it. So why don't we switch places? I will put on a wig. I will put on a mustache. I will be the great Einstein, and you can put on my hat and be my chauffeur." Well, Einstein loved the joke, so they switched places. This went along famously until one day, a mathematician in the back asked a very difficult question. And Einstein thought, oh, the game is up. But then the chauffeur said, that question is so elementary that even my chauffeur here can answer it for you. Thank you very much. You've been a great audience. And remember, you are...
Şimdi öyle bir çağa giriyoruz ki, içine girdiğimiz çağ artık singularite çağı. Ne demektir? Dijitalin içinde olduğu, biyolojik olanın içinde olduğu, fiziki olanın içinde olduğu bir yapıdan bahsediyoruz. Giderek robotlaşıyoruz, robotlar da giderek insanlaşacak.